Transmitting to you from Old Heart Radio.
Bat. Whoa,
Recording is in progress. It's a real bass line, real slow bass, stanky bass.
Stanky bass, stanky legs, stanky bass. All right, it's a matinee edition. It's things are great, I suppose. I let me tell you this story. I'll probably get in trouble if any of my bosses are listening. But today at work, so there's this couple that comes in and they're always fucking off about the masks, right? So every time they come in, they're like kind of like a snooty church looking couple. Like they always look like they're like uppity as fuck and they're looking down on you. And
probably negligible tippers.
Yeah, they're dickish. And so they come in, and almost every single time it's either Saturday or Sunday. Sunday they're dressed up and they're looking in their duds, because they just got out of church or whatever. Today they come in, and as usual, they don't have masks, and I go, "Hey, if you guys need some masks, we got some in the basket." And so they grab some masks. And they do that whole thing where they take forever to put them on, then they don't put them on right. So then I have to go back up and go, "Hey, would you guys mind wearing those masks properly?" And and then they do. And then so by the time they got through their order and their drinks were made, they're walking towards the door, and right as they're exiting, the door's open, the dude's about to walk out. I go really loudly, "I think that guy just farted." And like 2 or 3 people looked his way, and I was just like, "Gotcha." I just started fucking laughing under my breath and walked off.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh my god.
It was satisfying.
It makes me so happy to work in a place now where my boss was like, "Somebody's being a dick about not wearing a mask. Just don't make anything for them. Just tell them to leave."
Oh, yeah.
And there's a dude that's been coming by every once in a while, and he took it. He always we put a little sign. It's like, because we accept Apple Pay. We put a little sign that says, "Please use Apple Pay with your password." And I'd called him out a few times before, and then I saw him a few times, and he wasn't being a piece of shit or anything. And he but today he pulled down his mask again. My coworker is like, "Hey, would you mind just pulling up your mask and just using the password function?" And he's like, "It doesn't work." And to which I go, it works, man. It works unless you forgot your password on your own phone.
Yeah.
And then he like just starts getting all angry, and he walks away, begrudgingly comes and grabs his stuff, and then starts walking around without a mask. Like, our rule is like, go sit down when you're eating your shit, wear a mask. Yeah. If you're just chilling out, you don't need to. If you're walking around, wear a mask, please.
Yeah.
And I just like looked at my coworker. I'm like, if we ever see that guy again, we're gonna just throw him fucking out. We're gonna throw him out. He's in all the time, and he's always a piece of shit, and he never tips. So why should he come?
Yeah, like, that's what I mean. It's like, honestly, you can just go take your business somewhere else. And I know that sounds like it almost sounds entitled, but you're thinking about like one or two customers who spend $3 or $4, and sure, it stacks up for a small business, but sometimes it's like, and I've told this to my coworkers about certain customers. I'm like, "Yo, dudes, like, I would gladly put like that $3 or $4 for their drink out of my pocket to not deal with them every day."
I'm in that camp too. It's like, it's not worth it. I
Yeah.
think there's a friend of mine up here in Tacoma that opened a restaurant. He was like he was thinking about like, oh, what am I gonna do with like people coming in not wearing a mask?
Hmm.
And I was like, just don't serve them. Just
Yeah.
tell them to go somewhere else if they're being a pain about it, because so you're just filtering out people you wouldn't want coming anyway.
Yeah. You're establishing a client base, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
and
The
you know,
people that
that's
you want coming by are gonna love the fact that you said no to those people.
yeah. And you know what? Like I will say this to the credit of the place I work, they are very concerned. Like they are really like
Yeah.
shockingly to me, like very
Likewise.
concerned with like how we are getting treated in this situation. You know what I mean?
Good.
Like last time we had a meeting about it, it was, you know, the one of the focuses was like we don't want to make any moves like safety protocol wise if we think that like customers are going to be like nasty to, you know, you guys, if they're going to be mistreating you all. And I was like, it's great to have support like that, because
I
you have
respect
to,
that.
you definitely have to, like you were just saying, like you don't want to have to like kick customers out, but like these days people are being really fucking ornery and they're just not like, they all of a sudden don't want to respect like rules that individual businesses have. And so, you know, it's sort of like, damn, dude, you do have to like be a little cutthroat. And
Yeah.
it's anyway, we're not here to talk too much about
Well,
customer service. Welcome to Matinee
obligatory
Edition.
coffee rant at the beginning of an old heart radio podcast.
Dude, it's bound to happen, man.
It's bound to happen.
It's fucking
Every time.
unavoidable.
That said, hot dogs.
Yeah.
If you're going into a cafe, make sure to buy something, make sure you tip your preset, and wear a fucking mask. Please. For the love of God.
Just do it.
Treat people with kindness. That's
Yeah,
all.
man.
Yeah, it's been brutal.
Yeah. But
So, how
you
do we
know,
usually start the show?
ooh, I think we might have
Hell yeah. So,
it's a gaming minute, man.
I guess you gave me a minute.
What-
Maybe
what
that
do you
should
got?
be maybe. So I got two things this week. Number one, Pokemon Legends came out. Keep it short and quick. I'm not remotely close to finishing it, but it's like they've opened Pandora's box with this game. It's what Breath of the Wild was to the Legend of Zelda franchise,
Oh, wow.
but to
Okay.
Pokemon.
Wow.
It's like not on the grand scale of Breath of the Wild, but it's such a leap forward from a game design perspective.
Mhm.
That if what they're saying is true and this is going to be like a spin-off franchise, no one's going to fucking play the old version.
Yeah, that was what I was wondering about
Yeah.
this. I was like, this is gonna make some of the old gameplay obsolete. People
Completely.
are just gonna want this from now on, which isn't,
I mean,
I don't
like,
think bad if the capability is there.
it's like trimmed the fat in every way and like just given more of what people wanted and made it more robust in like the areas that it should be and just completely stripped everything that's not necessary.
Yeah.
Like battles don't teleport you off to like generic arena, you know?
Yeah.
It's like just where you're standing. You throw a Pokeball, your Pokemon comes out. Battle. Music starts playing.
Nice.
10 seconds tops rather than like a 30-second loading screen. And that's sort of the theme of it. It's like they went and they were like, what are the parts that people like?
Mhm.
And they just doubled down on that.
Well,
And then
it's
they
good,
put
though.
it, it's good. And I mean, like, it doesn't look especially good. I'm playing it.
Yeah.
I have the Switch Lite, so it's like the handheld one, and Kate's playing it on the normal Switch.
Okay.
You very quickly get beyond the graphical fidelity. There are some moments where I'm like, this doesn't look good. But the gameplay loop is so fun and so engaging that it just fades into the background.
Hell yeah. I mean, I figured this, like, you know, as you were describing it and whatnot, like I figured it was going to be one of those things like where, you know, the graphics are going to kind of be, you know, negligible. It will be something like whatever. I'm used to it by now. And yeah, because the gameplay sounded so different and involved and whatnot.
Exactly.
And so, you know, yeah, that's not your fucking focus. Like your focus is
and
playing.
Here's the thing, like the graphics, it only applies in this case to like the skybox and like the ground textures, but all the like character design and the actual like the Pokemon design is clean and they look good.
Nice.
So it's not like the actual like character designs look like shit. It's just the atmosphere is very mediocre
Yeah.
but that you're not really paying that much attention to it in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. And I mean, keeping the characters looking fresh like that alone is just
It's
like,
more important.
boom. Yeah. That's a far more important aspect. So
Exactly. It's that's the thing they had to nail and they did. So, and I'm really enjoying it. Kate's playing it in the other room right now while we're recording the podcast.
hell yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
what's the other aspect of the gaming minute?
Other aspect of the game, and also I will give a more thorough review because probably next week I will be done with the game. I'm maybe like halfway
Nice.
through right
Oh wow.
now.
Okay.
Other aspect of the game minute, the acquisitions continue. This
Mm.
week, Sony bought Bungie.
Yeah, dude, the original makers of Halo.
So, but what's crazy about this is that whoever Bungie had negotiating,
Mm-hmm.
it's the terms are like nothing we've seen in gaming before. It's
How
more
so?
of a funding partnership rather than an acquisition and like a profit sharing partnership.
Interesting.
There's no exclusivity. Bungie will still be self-publishing. They're not going under Sony Gaming. They're going to stay multi-platform.
Nice.
And they're going to have complete creative agency.
Wow, dude, what the fuck?
So
That's
it's not
wild.
and like essentially, like obviously Destiny is on 4 platforms. People freaked out, including myself. I'm an Xbox player. And they very quickly came out and were like, nothing is changing. This is just essentially a funding decision. Like we're going to be able to make more stuff. We're going to be able to employ more people, and Sony will get some of the money for that. But that's okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoever was negotiating for him deserves a fucking raise. give them some of that Sony money because nobody's seen something like this. It's completely like aside from whatever we've seen.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's wild. That's huge. Like, especially in light of like what like the other, just kind of went on.
Yeah.
Like, this is such a far more preferable way of partnering up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's so fucking cool. I didn't know the details of it too much. I was just like, and I'm sure, my reaction was like the same internet reaction. People were just like, the war continues.
I know, but it's like sort of almost antithetical to that narrative.
Well, it's almost like Sony saw the reactions and like, and things happening with that. They probably like, I wonder if they readjusted aspects of their negotiation, and because this had to have also been like in conversation when the announcements of those other 2 were made.
I think like an insider said that there had been talks happening for like 6 to 8 months.
Okay, fair enough.
And what's crazy is like what I would expected was like, okay, they're going to keep Destiny multi-platform. Mm-hmm. But then Bungie has like confirmed they're expanding their studio. They're opening another subsidiary studio, Bungie Netherlands, which is weird.
Wow.
And they have 2 new IPs coming. They have 2 wholly new franchises on the way. And I was like, those are probably going to be console exclusive then. Those are going to be just PlayStation games. But no, they even said that even the new IPs aren't going to be exclusives. And Sony isn't even getting any like timed exclusivity.
Huh.
So it's really just like it's like on Sony's end, it's this sort of like corporate, not really control, but like this is in the pocketbook. This is on the balance sheet thing. Rather than, and then on Bungie's side, they've managed to get essentially limitless funding from Sony and while retaining their creative agency. Like in terms of how that differs from Activision and Microsoft is like Microsoft is absorbing Activision. Yeah. Like it's going to be Xbox Game Studios and Activision is going to essentially dissolve into its separate studios.
Yeah. It's like when Disney bought LucasArts.
Exactly. That's a good one. But it's like, if the thing with Sony and Bungie is like, if Disney bought LucasArts and was just like, you guys don't have to be like held by our corporate standards at all. You can just keep doing whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, because like, I mean, I guess that's a good example just because like literally, I don't know if you recall this, like literally like there was a big deal where because Disney acquired it and then completely gutted it and dissolved it, like eliminated all the jobs. And that's what I mean. Like you see some moves like that. And like, I'm grateful that Sony seemed to have like chosen a different fucking path, because this is like, it's gonna I feel like when big gaming studios get absorbed like they have like we've been seeing recently,
Yeah.
like it's gonna diminish certain creativities in a way because
Yeah.
then control happens from one direction. And this seems like it'll be hands off and like more open and kind of how the studio has been operating. So
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think there is some. I have to give credit where credit's due. I think both Sony and Microsoft, at least in recent transactions, when they've like bought a studio outright, or it's usually after licensing a game, seeing that the game does well, and then they buy them and they're like, just do what you did, you know? Like Insomniac with Spider-Man is a good example.
Oh no.
There are a bunch of interviews from Insomniac saying that like, oh yeah, Sony we made the first Spider-Man, then they bought the studio and they just told us keep making good games.
Hell yeah.
Like, and just don't have any work culture problems that we don't have to step in on. And it's like, it's the next step in that. And I hope that this normalizes that like stuff can be released on multiple platforms, even if like, I hope that this is ending console exclusivity to a point. Like Halo is never going to be on a Sony machine, but I hope that like some of the lesser known or the lesser played console exclusives that like Psychonauts got nominated for Game of the Year. Halo Infinite didn't get nominated at the Game Awards this year. Like, but Psychonauts did. Jack Black did the entire fucking score for that game. And it's an Xbox exclusive that made zero money. Like it broke even at best. And it's making money now in Game Pass. And that's the only reason it's relatively successful. So it's, yeah, I mean, like exactly. Like maybe that type of stuff can benefit from being like, yeah, throw it on Switch, throw it on PS5.
Yeah.
Like it's all going back into Microsoft's pocket anyway. I think that's sort of it. Sony is now benefiting from Xbox, Stadia, and PC buyers buying Destiny now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then it's all a good point because it's just I don't know. I mean, they're just kicking. It sounds like essentially they're just going to be kicking forward money in order to get returns. And so, I mean,
even now I'm thinking of that. The Last of Us and God of War just launched on PC like a month ago. They dropped the exclusivity for just the PS5 and they're putting it on PC as well now.
Damn.
Fine by me, man.
Yeah. You're going to get more people buying it. That's all that's going to happen. Like,
and this is the one time when corporate interest and the interests of the people playing the games line up relatively, because people playing good games aren't going to give a shit who made them.
No,
we had the same talk.
They just want to play them.
We've had the same talk with movies. There's nobody fucking cares if what you make is good, No.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just the nature of like how people digest entertainment now. Yeah. And that's just fact. So yeah, that's fucking interesting though. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't realize the details on that acquisition.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so fascinating. I would sort of just like brush it off as like, fuck, here's another like corporate acquisition, but the details really make it an interesting story. And listeners, if you're interested and potentially want updates about Bungie's upcoming titles, like Destiny 2: The Witch Queen coming in 3 weeks or so, make sure to follow Old Heart Radio on Spotify, on Instagram, and in the Twitter spaces, and on YouTube. Me and Joe were just talking about some interesting stuff on that end.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be able to see our faces eventually.
Ooh. Now there's a dangerous thought.
Disgusting. But yeah. Also, while we're here and plugging stuff, make sure to check out Under Further Review. I just listened to the episode partially from yesterday. We're recording this Saturday the 5th. But I listened to part of the episode yesterday. You got your obligatory Devin Townsend dunk in there.
Yeah, dude. It's always going to be a good podcast if there's a slam on Devin Townsend.
It had been a few weeks.
It had. Caleb got easy. Caleb got off easy, I'd say.
Yeah, fuck. But on the note of corporate synergy and Lucasfilm in particular, we talk about Star Wars.
Oh yes, dude. We have to talk about that most recent episode of Book of Boba Fett, dude. Oh, yeah.
second
There,
episode in a row where at least this time we saw Boba Fett, but he didn't talk.
yeah. And like again, like second episode where it had way more of a Mandalorian feel.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Nobody's like
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
it's one of those things like across the board, everybody's like acknowledging, but being like, nah, I don't
It's so good.
care. And so it was really cool, man. But we have a really specific like interaction and thing that we follow the Mandalorian doing, and it's fucking it's the heart and soul of this episode, really. And
Absolutely.
but what is that like? How do we like? Where do we pick up with the Mandalorian in this episode?
He's going to find Grogu, which
Yeah.
I thought was going to be like a cutaway thing. Like we
Same.
see it briefly, then maybe comes back to Boba, but you get to see him visit Luke training Grogu.
It's fucking nuts. Like I did not picture, like I thought at best, like once he gets to the planet, because rolling up in that sweet and slick starfighter, he's like unloads and immediately runs into R2D2, which was fucking epic in itself. I was like, R2's there, and like when he's leading him through the area, you get this vibe of like, oh my god, like are we gonna see Luke? Or maybe there's just going to be like a cloaked figure or something. Like I didn't think they were going to go nearly as extensive with it as they did.
So the Luke thing was interesting because Mark Hamill once again was on set consulting for all that and doing some capture himself. But Lucasfilm hired a dude that did a deep fake like fixing of Mandalorian season 2 Luke, and he's now running their facial mapping stuff.
That's awesome. I also read
cool story.
I also read that none of the dialogue was recorded by Mark Hamill. It was all like put together by an AI or whatever. Yeah, that's crazy. So I mean, but that's the thing, dude. Like a very very like small pockets of people I feel like are being like, oh, what's up with that CGI? But when I was watching every single goddamn scene with Luke Skywalker, I was like, holy shit, look at how fucking good the CGI has gotten.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there is no way, even like 5 years ago, you'd be like, that they would be able to replicate somebody. I mean, like look at some of the early versions of this, like fucking like young Charles Xavier, dude, like who looks like his face is made out of fucking plastic, like
even Tarkin in Rogue One, like 5 years ago.
Yeah, dude, exactly. Like it was like passable but rough still. Like and this looks like it's just so much better, so good. And like the fact that like he's you're not just getting like too many still shots, you're getting like moments where he's actively moving around as a character and it still looks that good. Like fuck, dude. But who else? I mean,
the one thing that put me off was the voice a bit, and I think
it was a bit off.
They might have been better served to actually have like Mark Hamill do it and then maybe run it through an AI or something to make it sound younger, but it just sounded a bit stunted.
That was probably the only like bone to pick I could with his appearance in this episode.
I can understand the people that are like, just recast Luke Skywalker, but then like the same people that are getting pissed about like an AI or like the AI element or the deep faking to make somebody look like him are not going to be satisfied with a recasting. They're going to be like, this other person would have been better,
Yeah, I mean, it's going to, either way, it's going to bring some heat, you know what I mean? Like, and I think at least particularly for now, because like, not just because of like the character of Luke Skywalker, but because Mark Hamill is so held with esteem at this point for that role and for being just a broader member of like the acting community. Like, I think it's best that they continue down this path, it's not like they're going to be doing like, 45-minute episodes with Luke Skywalker. And it's not like they're going to be doing a Luke Skywalker series. If they did, they'd probably recast it. But like,
Yeah.
I think that's not something that the studio wants to pursue clearly.
Yeah, I don't think it's in the cards.
Yeah,
clearly because they're writing Grogu being a Jedi out because somebody in the continuity department was like, "Oh, guys, Kylo Ren's going to kill him in 19 years."
But that was one of the issues, right? Like what the fuck is R2 doing with Luke Skywalker when he supposedly hasn't seen Luke Skywalker for like 30 years or some shit, right?
Well,
Like,
no, it wasn't that. I remember Luke had R2 was like deactivated in The Force Awakens, and Luke had just like left him.
Yeah, there's like some shit where they hadn't been like in like around each other, but I guess maybe that will happen later. Either way, so but like those two aren't the only people you see, and you also get a brief cameo from who?
Well, first we should talk about Cobb Vanth, though.
Sure,
let's talk about Cobb Vanth because the blue elephant in the room will come up in a moment.
Okay, so moving away from that Luke Skywalker sequence in the planet, the Jedi Temple, and all that stuff.
The opening sequence with Cobb Vanth is very Western style standoff with the pikes was very fun.
It was surprising that his character was back. I don't mind his. I definitely didn't mind the character, but I was like, okay.
Yeah, it fits, especially with the vibe of Book of Boba Fett and the vibe of Mandalorian. It works. It's a character that goes back to the origins of Star Wars in Westerns, So much of Han Solo's inspiration was that. And so much of just like the Tatooine stuff in the movies was that as well. So good little wink and a overt wink and a nod. And even in the standoff scene, the shot timing lines up with the good, bad, and the ugly by like a millisecond, shot to shot.
Nice.
So it's like there's a lot of references in that, and I really enjoy it. So
no, it's interesting because it just reestablishes that. I mean, that sequence in particular reestablishes that the dude's just as formidable as always, even without the armor.
Yeah, I mean, fun way to bring back a character like that had a relatively small role at the beginning of The Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah,
but was fun. And I think like everyone ended that episode with like, yeah, we'll see him again. So it was nice to see, just like with no heads up, that this guy's coming back.
Yeah, but why do we see him?
Because fucking Cad Bane shows up and shoots him in the chest.
Well, first though, we see him because the Mandalorian shows up to try to persuade him to apparently get a garrison of fucking citizens to fight for him, which seemed really, really out of the blue, to be honest. But it looked like he had it in the bag, and then when Mandalorian leaves, like some shit goes down. Like
Cad Bane, man, dude, Cad Bane showing up in this was more surprising than seeing Luke. I had a feeling we'd see Luke. And we're also forgetting about Ahsoka. Ahsoka briefly showed up, which is a fucking crazy thing, seeing Ahsoka talking with Luke Skywalker.
They dropped, that alone was really great. But they dropped all, like, it was, multiple characters in this fucking episode. And Cad Bane showing up was absolutely bonkers. It was completely
You watched the Clone Wars and stuff, yeah?
Yeah, I've watched most of it. I'm familiar with the character. And, like, it makes sense, it makes sense in like a show centered kind of around one of the most infamous bounty hunters that they're going to pull some of the more popular characters that they can like in that, in that way. So it was kind of cool because this, you think is going to be a character. Maybe you just get like a nod to being out there or something, but like you get a very big nod to being him being out there by that fucking quick draw, man.
So
holy
cool
shit, dude. Yeah, it was nuts. But
it's also an incredibly effective translation of the character design as well, in my opinion. I know that
as always, some haters are out there.
Yeah, there's been a bit of controversy because he was bluer in I hate that shit. Dude. He's not blue enough in live action. Your animation is stylized, you fuckers. Yeah.
It's just so funny to me. It's like you're gonna pick like such a small bone like that, dude. Like he's a slightly lighter toned blue, and his eyes might not be as wide or something. And it's like, fuck the hell off. Like,
I know it doesn't. It's
like this character looks so dope right now, and he's standing right fucking there.
It's it would have been fucked up and like people would have a right to be upset if you didn't immediately look at it and be like, "Holy shit, it's Cad Bane," you know? Like
Dude,
if I looked at that,
you didn't even need to see him up close to know. You saw
you
the
saw him walking,
silhouette
you
and
saw
you're
the
like,
hat.
that's motherfucking Cad Bane coming up with this guy, dude. Like that's how much people know that character. And yeah. So
it was cool seeing that Dave Filoni directed it as well, because he like Ahsoka character he made, Cad Bane character that he came up with, like they premiered in his run of the Clone Wars. So I thought that was pretty fun bringing both those characters back in his episode.
hell yeah.
It makes me wonder if he's going to be, because Robert Rodriguez is show running the Book of Boba Fett. Jon Favreau is running the Mandalorian. I'm curious if Dave Filoni is going to show run Ahsoka.
I mean, maybe he seems like he seems like he's more busy. He's overall kind of dabbling in helping everything. Yeah. So I wonder if that's just like it's working for him. So I wonder if that's going to be a precedent. Maybe he keeps just popping up as like a director or something. I'm not like, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but like I just feel like he's like a resource that is worth keeping spread out a little bit, because he's just so talented at his
little bit of the spices,
dude. That's what I'm saying, man. But I don't know,
man.
I mean,
a bit in everything,
I mean, either way, I guarantee you that there's not going to be any Filoni shortage in Ahsoka, because, as you said, like that was a character that was brought to life in and so there's no way that they'd be moving forward without his input. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because it's probably going to be rounding out her character. Like I imagine that's her swan song. Like
I know. I mean, much like Book of Boba Fett, like I don't like want to hold my breath for more seasons. I really hope that they just do really solid work with like a great story, spread out for the like one series, and then like that's the story.
If the character sticks around, they stick around.
Yeah, but
don't expect them to have their own show again.
Yeah, not every new show needs to be The Mandalorian.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but anyway, so you
also
of
new shows that might as well be given universes The Mandalorian.
Ooh,
Peacemaker.
Dude, we got motherfucking Peacemaker. Okay, so last we picked up with Peacemaker, I think like right before this episode, I think was what, like they do, like he's got his little butterfly friend trapped in a jar. He's got like his dad's now gonna, like his dad's suspicious of him, at least in this episode.
And they murder
fucking
gorilla, right?
Crazy, man.
They kill the gorilla with
they kill the Economos. I love that Vigilante gets mad because he was just like, I mentioned that I wanted to kill somebody with a chainsaw like 15 minutes before this. But like with this most recent episode that dropped, like shit like fucking hit the fan, man. Like,
I mean, you get to figure out what the deal is with Mern.
Yeah. That motherfucking, so like I'm still kind of confused a little bit with him. So like he's a butterfly, but
he's like the sole person that was against.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. So he's kind of on the human side.
Yeah.
So random.
And he occupied the worst person he could find.
Yeah. And
which interesting moral discussion as well.
Fair. Well, and I mean, especially because later, one of the things you see during this episode is the unleashing of some butterflies, or particularly how they really enter like somebody.
Brutal.
And it's fucking brutal, dude. The detective, oh my God, what's her name?
Sophie.
Yeah. So this is when she gets, fucking infected by the one that Peacemaker was keeping in a goth, I guess is what they refer to him as.
Yeah.
Like that was so fucking nuts, dude. It's like she's like, you're seizing up and like blood splattering from your fucking mouth and shit, and like,
I mean, she's getting burrowed into, right?
Oh yeah, dude, it's fucking gnarly. Could you imagine that shit happening? Dumb.
No,
Christ.
And then even that later in the episode when the butterflies take over the police and get all the convicts, I was like, oh, God, it was like a brutal scene to watch.
It was gnarly, but this is something I want to mention. This show has done in this episode and other episodes such amazing practical effects at times where
right.
one of the cool things in this room, and it may seem small, but like in this sequence at one point you're seeing like almost like an entire room full of like detectives and police officers laying on the ground seizing and convulsing, and they're all spitting up real fake blood out of their mouths and like doing this thing. And I thought it was so fucking cool. And in another episode, no, it was the episode with the gorilla, dude. Like some of the practical effects and that they used, like hacking up shit and like blowing up shit along the way. Like it's been so fucking cool. And I think it was one of those particularly effective methods, like with the butterflies, going in the people's mouths. It really like nailed it. But that alone was fucking crazy. But
you also leave the episode off seeing that the White Dragon's going after Peacemaker.
Dude, oh my god,
what a jackass,
man. Dude, the White Dragon, his suit looks like, I will say this, in terms of like creating a fairly comic accurate like super suit for live action, looks cool
on the money,
but as like a superhero costume of sorts, it looks fucking douchey.
Well, that's sort of the point, right?
Exactly.
Like when Vigilante's in prison with the white supremacists, he just points out all of their like ideological flaws.
Oh yeah.
Like how even the culture that they tout as like white has been touched and influenced by others.
Oh yeah.
They're just in denial. And it was like, yeah, obviously this like metal as fuck, over the top, ridiculous suit that screams, I'm a supervillain.
It's ridiculous. But I will hail this, man. Like the boldness.
Bad choice of words.
Oh, fair enough. The boldness of the costume colors and just like the like, I don't know, the go for like comic accuracy, or like something that would pop off of a comic book page at least, like really stands out in this show. Whether it's his costume, like Peacemaker's costume, which you
Vigilante
saw originally
as well,
Vigilante, like there's just really great
and then you look at the Suicide Squad as well.
Show. Exactly, and this all starts with that, and like again, it's it like just owning that and just like making it apart. Like there's parts in this episode where Vigilante and Peacemaker are trying to escape the police from his place, and they're like sneaking around through the trees, and I couldn't help but think how fucking stupid it must be for Peacemaker in a bright red shirt and white pants to try and sneak around some green trees. I was like, this guy's just gonna stick out anyway, this fucking idiot. Like,
God, I thought that was funny.
Like I feel like that was years
comic
ago.
Logic.
Yeah, years ago it would have been like, oh no, we got to make his costume like a little more sleek and something that like doesn't look so outlandish. And it's like that's the fucking point. Like
as badass as I still think it looks, I think the prime example of that is the Captain America suit from the beginning of the Winter Soldier.
Oh,
where it's like the shield, they repainted the shield for that scene because it was a stealth mission.
Yeah,
it's a great suit. But it's the embodiment of like that era, or like Henry Cavill's Man of Steel suit.
Yeah, fair.
Like, where they toned it down. It's like it makes sense in your fucking Call of Duty sepia tone world that we all were living in the early 2010s. Mm-hmm. But like, and
well, even further, like going back to like Superman Returns with fucking Brandon Routh, dude. Like everybody, like immediately when that costume was revealed, there's such huge backlash because it was like, it's more like a fucking dark crimson. What's he wearing? Maroon? Like, it's like, Jesus Christ, people. But anyway, so this show just really continues to fucking nail it, man. And I'm excited for
the finale next week.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to see where this goes because it leaves off on such a hanger, right? So you find out Abadayo fucking planted this diary in Peacemaker's house, and you knew about that, but you're just like, what the fuck is in the diary? And then you find out
he was going to be the fall guy for everything.
Yeah, dude, what the fuck? Like, I was like, oh my God. And so, like the police force is out to get him. Well, the law enforcement's going after him now at this point, and he's got to fucking deal with the butterflies still.
No, a literal police force of butterflies.
Yeah, it's fucking, it's going to be fucking nuts.
before we get on to our last story, there's going to be another Suicide Squad spin-off show.
I heard that James Gunn wanted to do one. Yeah,
it's in production.
That's cool. That's awesome. I mean, like, I think if you can continue to pick some of these characters, and just open them up a little bit, make the world ridiculous and breathed in, it'll fucking go a long way.
Just in thinking about that, with the at the beginning, large roster of characters. By the end, there's like 4 left. King Shark's not getting his own show.
No, that'd be boring.
Harley Quinn, no.
I
don't think Idris Elba is doing an HBO show for Bloodsport.
No.
I think it's Ratcatcher.
I mean, maybe it could be
if it's a sequel.
It would be interesting, but like the problem is you're gonna have to really find some way to make that. I don't know. She wasn't like the most compelling character. That's the problem.
I agree.
Because in that movie, she was kind of like the heart and soul of the movie.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, and like, so it kind of have to be like more of a like almost. I can't see it being as fun as Peacemaker, but I would love to see me be wrong. Like that'd also be really fucking like cool to just see develop.
I also thought Peacemaker was a stupid idea.
Dude, I was on board with Peacemaker, man. Like I was like this show's sold. Like no way this is gonna be like lame. It's just gonna be stupid at very best. It's gonna be fun at most.
Until I finished the Suicide Squad.
Fair enough. Yeah. But I am interested to see what he does. Because, like, and I mentioned this to you, like, one of the things I recently read was that Harcourt and potentially other members, and I imagine that's Economos and maybe, some, anybody else from this team that you see on Peacemaker is supposedly showing up in Black Adam, the Black Adam movie coming out. And it had me thinking, like, it'd be really interesting. This is one of the things I think really helped make Marvel movies successful early on was that you low key had they alluded to it in Avengers. Low key, you had Agent Phil Coulson.
Low key.
You had Phil Coulson kind of binding all these characters together, right? So if you can find some sort of way to keep a humanized element popping up in all these greater than human movies or shows or whatever, like it can provide a conduit of connectivity. And I was wondering, I'm like, that might be something they're trying to do with characters like Harcourt and maybe like some of the other members of this team. Well, yeah, and if you balance it out, they have a really good dynamic of like comedy and I don't know. Anyway, I just think
the one that plays Harcourt's James Gunn's wife.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I like. He posted something on Instagram and it came up and I was like, holy shit,
that's wild. Yeah. Well, she does a good job for the character, I think. I just think it'd be, like I said, I think it'd be interesting to create some sort of connective thing, and maybe that's what they're doing with that. Because I wouldn't mind seeing them pop up on the scene of something, Yeah,
and they're good pseudo everyman characters. More so Obadiah and Economos are sort of those everyman types.
Yeah,
Harcourt's a bit more like rough,
Yeah, I just don't see them like continuing on with Obadiah's character too much because she seems very adverse to what she's doing, and so like I don't think they're going to be like continuing her involvement in this world, overall.
I don't know though. Maybe that's her deal at the end. It's like she realizes that she is cut out for this.
Maybe. I mean, she is kind of cutthroat at times,
She's fucking ruthless.
Yeah. Speaking of ruthless, I want to use that as a segue right into something that I wanted to talk about. Dude, like we've recently had like the Amazon announcement of their Lord of the Rings show.
Yes.
So,
which I want to preface. I've watched all the Lord of the Rings films. I'm not like a huge fan, I get it, but I'm not super into everything.
Have you ever read the books?
Like, I've not.
That I think it's one of those things that, it's one of those things that like you either you dig into the world or you don't, and there's you can definitely dabble. Like it's like because of the movies became so big, they like open up the availability, I think, for people to look at Lord of the Rings. Accessibility, excuse me. Yeah. And I think that
either one works.
I think that you know, it's one of those properties like you can go so deep with that
Absolutely.
you know, you can get buried. But anyway, so Amazon, like, they're not, it's kind of false to call it a Lord of the Rings show, you know what I mean? But they're
It's a
definitely,
prequel, right?
yeah, they're definitely riding the coattails of that popularity of the title. Like Peter Jackson, to the point where Peter Jackson's had to go out of his way to say, I'm not affiliated with this show. You know, like it's,
Interesting.
you know, because he's synonymous with Lord of the Rings now.
Yeah.
And you know, so anyway, but it looks like it's going to be really interesting. Amazon, I will say, has actually had a fairly good track record of producing like good quality programs, like
Absolutely.
like you know, and so I have some faith in their studio putting some money behind this. It's called I believe it's called the Ring of Power, or the Rings of Power.
Yeah, something like that.
And it's going to be centered around, yeah, it's centered around like the second age of Middle Earth, where Sauron is developing his power, and the rings that he builds for all, like, you know, the elves, the dwarves, the men, they're being made and dispersed, and you know, things are starting to take hold, you know, and
Yeah.
so it's a really interesting unexplored time in Middle Earth, like something you only really get a glimpse of in passing in the movies, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, it also will focus on the elven island of Numenor, where, like, you know, it's the elves go to near the end of their lives, and you know, just live mysteriously forever, you know, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I know.
It's all these interesting elements that you've never explored in a visual property for, you know.
You know, the one of the interesting things, and I think it's such a world that I haven't really dove into. Like, I've never really read the books. I know I have watched the movies. I played the two of the games, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, which interestingly, they're getting sued. So they for apparently stealing Assassin's Creed mobility function. Yeah. But they're also like a month ago, they released the first trailer for Lord of the Rings Gollum. What am I saying? Who am I thinking of?
I don't know.
Gollum? Yeah, Gollum. I don't know why I was so hesitant with that. Lord of the Rings Gollum. They're making a Gollum-centric game.
I mean, that's interesting, kind of.
I'll send you the trailer after this. I mean,
yeah.
It's one of those things of like, I'm aware of the property, I'm aware of the IP, I've enjoyed it, but it's never something like I'm in line for, like Star Wars, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that might also have to do with the fact that for new listeners, me and Jared are almost 10 years like in age apart. Like I'm in like, yeah. And like when the Lord of the Rings films were being released, I was a fucking kid. You were like a teenager at that point when they were in their heyday, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, so I got that stuff when like the hype had already died down, you know? And I watched it, I enjoyed it, and I was like, all right, time to move on, you know?
Oh yeah.
Versus like definitely like being both of us right now, we are both of mature enough mind to be in like the MCU heyday. We like get why this is a big deal. Me as like a little kid, I probably like watched 30 seconds before going like bullshitting, like without paying any attention to the movie again, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's, you know, I think there's a lot to attribute to that. Like the hugeness of how, like the Lord of the Rings movies and how they like took over. Like there's still some of the movies that have won the most Academy Awards, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
that's incredible.
Like shit like that, like for these huge fantasy movies to go so far. But I mean, you can't just give credit to those works. Peter Jackson pulled off miracles with those films, and you know, forever helped compel forward like the love and attention for Lord of the Rings and J.R.R. Tolkien's works will get, you know.
Exactly.
Like that source material was so deep and so fucking like it's just, dude, like the world that Tolkien built
heavily inspired everything that's come since.
Yeah, it's just nuts.
It's a genre. It's a genre defining piece of art.
Like we talk about how Star Wars has so much room to breathe and build. Like there's so much of that all like with the Lord of the Rings properties, the Middle Earth properties. There's legends and there's periods of time that have been carved out, and there's just life to be breathed into it. And I don't know, it's just exciting to see that. So I'm really hoping that Amazon pulls something off. And we'll see if they fucking do.
I'm excited. I'm interested. I'm gonna have to rewatch the movies because it's been a while.
Dude, they're always worth rewatching, man. They're so fucking good.
They'll have to do all 6, Get
maybe
the Hobbit in there.
All 6 is a stretch. You got it. Back in the day, when it was just the Lord of the Rings ones, you'd get your hands on like my fucking dad. He had a box set of like the extended special edition, and so each one was 3-4 hours, like easily. And so the whole thing was like you and your fucking friends would try and like stay up and binge watch like 10 hours of Lord of the Rings.
The closest thing I ever did to that was, oh god, this is so fucking lame. When I was a teenager, me and some friends, this is my equivalent, we, for a friend's birthday, watched 27 hours of Fast and Furious and then went and watched Fast 6.
Oh, hey man, there's nothing as entertaining as a Fast and Furious binge. That's fucking sure. I mean,
is there though?
The corn dogs know it. The corn.
We did it. We did it for the show. We did it before Hobbs and Shaw.
Exactly.
We sat in my apartment and watched Tokyo Drift and fucking Fast Forward, the most forgettable movie ever made.
That's right. Oh god. And we got another one to look forward to eventually also. So
the end of the saga. Will The Rock return? He's not
the end of the family. Oh, that's the last bit of news for you. We'll end on that. The Jason Momoa apparently has been working out a deal to be cast in a role in the last Fast and Furious movie.
Fuck yeah. Why not?
Why the fuck not? Throw them the fuck in there, dude.
Can't wait to see him fall through a Doctor Strange portal. In his Aquaman costume. He's just going to be like, am I part of the family now? Yeah.
Dude, that would be the ultimate. The Fast and Furious conclusion is that it's just a branch of the multiverse in the MCU.
That'd be fucking hilarious. All the memes of like when there's the clip accidentally releases a Blizzard getting punched.
Oh yeah.
And the one with Vin Diesel hopping out of the car is the best one.
Fuck,
oh god.
All right, we're gonna leave it on there. Hot dogs.
It's been real.
You make sure you do yourselves a favor, dip yourself in some batter, turn yourself into a corn dog, and listen to Old Heart Radio.
Go follow all this stuff: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Listen to the other podcasts. We got more on the way. You know what to do.
All right, we'll leave it there. See you all later.